All right. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Brandy Rains, and this is Taking Life by the Reins podcast. And we are truly doing things all unfiltered over here. We are talking mom life, we're talking marriage, faith, past experiences, childhood trauma, motivation, business. Literally, there will not be a stone unturned. I have been creating content on social media, running a beauty empire. I've started my own supplement company. I have my own hair brand starting. I've done this now for almost a decade. As long as I've been a parent, I have been working from social media full time. And I think that what comes with social media creators, influencers, online entrepreneurs is common misconceptions that the person you see today, the person they are right now, it was handed to them. It was easy. They've always been good at it. And there's just so much more in depth and behind the scenes to all of us, but to these online social media creators that you see. And so my hope is that I can share more of my life. I can share more of my past experiences. I believe God has pulled me to start this podcast to help you realize that not everything in your life has happened to you, but for you, and that there is success for you out there, and there is a happier, more vibrant life out there for you if you're willing to go after it. So on episode 1, if you watched it, we really dove into the timeline of my life, not in full depth, but I shared 4 pivotal moments, 4 moments that really, truly made a difference in my life. These were pivotal moments. These were things that made such a difference in my life that when I look back at the entirety of my life, they were moments that made me put my blinker on and take a left instead of a right. And I am so grateful for these moments, but I want to dive in a little deeper today. So the 4 moments that we shared about were when my parents got a divorce. And it was actually both of my parents got a divorce on my mom's side and then on my adopted father's side. They both got a divorce from my step-parents the summer going into high school. So very pivotal transitional time just in general for somebody. I was also going through 2 different divorces that were very toxic. That was one. The second was when my high school boyfriend cheated on me and I decided to move to Disney and get a job. Completely moved across the country, away from everything I ever knew, found a roommate on Craigslist and just made it work. Man, did I learn a lot. The third pivotal moment was actually when I worked at Disney, and a good friend of mine, Brian, basically came to me and said, hey, nobody likes you here because you're really mean and you need to do something about it. And it was the most crazy slap in the face that changed my life. Of course, meeting my husband and then additionally starting my business. 4 moments that really were like monumental in my life. But I want to dive a little deeper today to talk about I want to talk about the things that I've gone through in life, not necessarily like what they looked like, but how they affected me internally. Because here's the reality, here's the truth. When you grow up in chaos, when you grow up in survival mode, you learn to adapt to it. You learn to live through it, but it makes you have this armor. It puts your guard up. It makes you put up walls that oftentimes follow you into your adulthood, and they follow you into your work, into your relationships, into your marriage, into your friendships, into your parenting. So today I really want to talk about childhood wounds and the things that I've gone through that have followed me well into my adult life, and how those things have created patterns that I at some point realized I can't live with. I can't keep those patterns. We touched on that a little bit in episode 1 about me realizing I can't make my problems and my stress everybody else's problem. But additionally, I think I've come to realize there were so many patterns and behaviors that I had to unlearn to be able to be happy, to be able to find success, to be able to look at money the right way, right? Like my relationship with money because of how scarce it was growing up, to be able to feel safe. That is something that I had to rewire my brain. And thanks to therapy, I have been able to. But I realized that not everybody has that resource. And there is a lot you can do on your own to really dive deeper and figure out, like, what are the patterns that I took from my childhood experiences, from past trauma and those wounds that I shouldn't be carrying anymore? What are things that I'm supposed to give to God and not take with me anymore? So I shared a little bit of the timeline on how I was born basically not knowing my biological father. No, actually not knowing my biological father. I was definitely the product of an affair, and my mom was technically still married to my brother's dad, who ended up adopting me when I was born. The storyline is really kind of crazy, and it's so wild because as I've opened up more about this experience, especially over the last 3 years when I found out I have 4 siblings that I've never met, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. They all live in Alaska, one in California. It's crazy how many people relate to that. How many people don't know their biological father and end up later in life finding they have siblings? We're definitely going to unpack that at some point in this season, but I was born into chaos. My mom did end up going through a divorce when I was, I think, like around 5. And, I don't necessarily want to dive into all of that, but from a very early age, I felt unsafe. I didn't feel stability. I felt responsible in my life to be the one to figure out peace, stability, to be able to feel like things are normal. My parents both quickly remarried. So my mom got remarried to my stepdad, who I really adored. My dad got remarried to my stepmom. That was a horrible experience. I had stepbrothers, and we won't go down that rabbit hole on this episode, but there's a lot of trauma there that has absolutely shaped some of my responses to love and to men as an adult, which I think is super relatable, unfortunately. And from a very young age, I was well aware of the chaos in life. I was well aware of things that kids shouldn't be aware of. I was aware of the money that we didn't have, the bills that were past due, just really like adult topics that 5 and 6-year-olds shouldn't have to deal with. Anytime there was a problem, an unpaid bill, a disagreement, it was very, very, very apparent in our household. There was lots of yelling. There was lots of throwing of things. There was lots of let's pack up and go to our aunt's house, take the dogs, take the things, whether it's in the middle of the night and you have school the next day or not. It was just always chaotic, if I could say one word to explain it. I think pretty early on, keep in mind, I grew up with a brother. My brother's technically my half brother, but he's my brother like through and through. I realized early on that I had to learn how to be independent. And that's a pretty sad thing for a child to have to learn so early on, is just being hyper independent and knowing that you're really the only one you can rely on. My brother is 6 years older than me. And so our childhood and our view of our childhood looks so different. The first divorce that we went through, when my mom and his dad divorced when I was in kindergarten, he remembers so vividly. It impacted him so much in different ways than it impacted me because I was so young. So I still was naive enough to believe that there's still happiness and there's still, I was able to cope with the chaos and the just complete turmoil differently than he was. I think at the time he was like 10 or 11, which is a really fragile a really fragile age to deal with that kind of trauma. And then when my parents went through their second divorce, he had already signed up and enlisted to be an active member in the Air Force. So he kind of left right as all that transpired. So we definitely have different experiences and views of our childhood, and it definitely affected us in different ways. I think for me, at a young age, the way I had to cope and the way I had to find, maybe moments where I felt safe or patterns that helped me feel safe. Whether it be locking myself in my room and putting on music. I had like this closet growing up. It was actually really interesting. We grew up in a house that was over 100 years old. It was in the historic district in Port Huron, Michigan. And the house that we had like really weird shaped rooms and closets. And so my room was in the front of the house, and there were two super long closets that went the length of the room. And I remember making them like my little clubhouses. And I didn't know it then, but now I look back and I realize like that was where I went for like my safe space. I remember there being like crafts. I remember having a beanbag in there, a little boom box in there. And when my parents would fight or argue, I would just remove myself and recluse and just kind of like tone and tune out the noise and just put myself into this little safe space that I created. From a very young age, I realized now looking back that I was learning survival skills that people usually have to learn when they're adults. And I don't think I would change it. I don't think I would take anything back. I think that everything transpires for a reason. But what I do realize is internally, it's created a lot of behavioral patterns that are toxic as an adult. And so I've had to do a lot of therapy to unlearn some of those habits when it comes to my marriage, when it comes to parenting, when it comes to friendships, and when it comes to money and success. Some things that I realized the chaos and hurt of my childhood created is the need for control, the need for perfectionism, the need to overwork myself. I've realized over time that nothing, for a long time, I should say, I've definitely healed myself from here, but I realized for a long period of time, no accomplishment or achievement was ever enough, ever. And so I would hit a milestone and I would run through that milestone. I would hit $1 million in sales, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million, $15 million. I have sold so much. On paper, it's mind-boggling. But to me, it's never been enough. I, for some reason, created in my mind that I can't stop and celebrate my wins and my success, that it's never enough. And likely that stemmed from never being celebrated as a child. Whether I was competing in a dance competition, winning a gold medal, and, just hearing like, great job, but not being celebrated, not being rewarded, not being recognized in the spaces where I'm supposed to feel really safe, and I'm supposed to have that reassurance from my parent on either side that I'm doing a good job and that I should keep going. I think that all of those experiences and really just being in a household where fighting about money and disagreeing really a lot about money was the main focus. And, there were often times I was told to go to the mailbox and pull out a past due bill and hide it so that the other parent doesn't see it, things like that. So there was never a focus on wins, celebrating milestones. There was never a permission given to stop and celebrate something that you've done well. It was always focused on the negative. It was always focused on what are you or what is somebody in the family doing wrong? And it created this really hard exterior where, somebody will compliment me, and I say will compliment me. This is the last 3 years been something I've really healed from, but it's something my husband recognized in me. I would get a compliment from a stranger or a compliment, on my hair or my makeup or like your shoes, whatever. Get a compliment about a success that I had, or my husband would want to celebrate a milestone that I had. And I, for some reason, would become recluse. And it was like as if I was almost being rude because somebody was like, oh my gosh, congratulations. I can't believe you sold that much. And I could not accept that it was actually good. I would have to minimize it. I would have to almost like disagree or like quietly just say, thanks so much. For whatever reason, I could not be proud out loud for myself. There have been several instances where I would tell a story about my childhood, whether I would tell my husband, like, you remember like when you were a kid and like, you'd be at a friend's house and you'd think to yourself, man, I wonder if they notice if I took a granola bar. Wonder if they notice if I get a second helping of dinner because I know I'm not eating when I get home. Uh, I would tell him stories about, the fights my parents would get in. I would tell him stories about, living in a different home every year of high school and, some of those homes not having furniture. Like at one point, my 10th grade year, we had a house and literally all we had was a love seat, a TV tray with a computer on it, a dining table with 4 chairs, and 2 mattresses on the ground. We did not have a fridge. We did not have an oven. We did not have any other furniture in the home. No decorations, just a box. And that was one of my toughest years for sure. I was in a toxic relationship and my mom was struggling with a lot of things. And so I was really parenting myself that year. And I would tell Casey these stories, my husband, and he would like kind of look at me with these wild eyes like, actually, no, that's not normal. Almost like you feel bad. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I thought these things were pretty normal. Um, when he would say that to me, or the moment when my friend Brian came to me at Disney and said, people don't like you because you're being mean. All of my past had created this hard shell. And my front facing, my outward facing personality was pushing people away. Even early years of my marriage, I pushed my husband away when he would want to be vulnerable and emotional with me. It was so hard. It still is for me sometimes. I have to remember that I've healed from this and I've reworked my brain and I can handle vulnerable conversations because I'm now in a safe marriage and a safe home. I've created a safe space and a healthy home. But man, old patterns die hard. Man, old patterns die hard. And it took me a really long time and very intentional work to realize that there were so many things and so much trauma that I went through as a child that I now have to unlearn. I think that I've come to the realization that all the things that happened to me growing up and as a child, they weren't my fault. I would often ask myself, like, why is this my life? Or why are my parents this way? Or why is my life this way? Or why is my schooling this way? Or why is this, all these different like traumatic events. And again, like I don't really discredit my parents. I think that we live in a different time. You can probably relate. Like, I don't think that our parents were prompted to heal their trauma. In fact, I know they weren't. I know my mother went through so much trauma as a child, and that really affected her into her adult years, as it does for us. But now we have the chance and we have the permission to change. We can make a difference in saying the buck stops here. It stops with me. That I can create healthier patterns, relationships, spaces for my kids, for my husband, for myself. Like, I'm not done living. I got life to live. And I think it's so important. I realize like that wasn't my fault, but what's my responsibility now? So importantly is that I heal, right? I break those generational barriers. I break those generational curses. I break those generational patterns. I stop the chaos now. And I heal from it and I create peace, but in a way that is forgiving and loving and graceful to my past. Because I think there's also a lot of us that have been bitter to the things we've been through and bitter to the people that we think are responsible for what we've been through, but that's not healthy either. It says in the Bible, you have to forgive. You've been forgiven and you must forgive. And I think that we so often hold a grudge over the things that we've been through, but they made you. If you didn't go through that, if I didn't go through what I went through, I don't know that I would work as hard. I don't know that I would love as hard. I don't know that I would appreciate the small things in life the way I do right now. If things would have been handed to me, if money was just easier, if I had a loving home with parents that loved each other and the white picket fence and the dog and the vacations. I don't think I ever took a vacation in my life. Like we never went outside of like Ohio. We grew up in Michigan. Like that was my reality. And I think that I owe it to myself. And I think that those of you listening, kind of nodding your head like, yep, I came from chaos too. And it made me hyper independent. And it made me bitter. And it made me my exterior hard. It made me slow to trust. It made me fast to judge. It made me a overachiever and a hard worker, a workaholic, if you will. I used to wear it as a badge of honor that I'm a workaholic. Your girl is man, the amount of times I've told people I'm a workaholic, and I would say it in a bragging way, but what is there to brag about that? Nothing. Being a workaholic is 100% a trauma response. It is a response to you not feeling safe enough to know that rest is not earned. It is absolutely deserved. It is necessary. For me, running through milestones over and over and over without stopping to celebrate, stopping to recognize, like, man, look where I've come. 9-year-old Brandy would be so proud. I've not done that. And for so many years, I've not done that. I didn't stop to be proud. I didn't stop to celebrate. And what happens is that when you can't slow down and stop to celebrate, stop to recognize, nothing is ever good enough. Nothing. And for me, that was like in work. But then I realized that unhealthy pattern that I created from childhood, right? I never felt safe. I never felt secure. I didn't have stability. I have a horrible relationship with money. I've thankfully gotten to a much better place, but I had scarcity mindset. I felt that any moment in time, if I slowed down, even for a day, I'm telling you, at one point it did get unhealthy where it was like, even for a day, if I would think if I didn't slow down messed that up. Even for a day, if I slowed down, if I didn't do a live, if I didn't work, if I didn't do a training for my team, I had this belief in my head that everything could fall apart. I consistently, for years and years, worked so hard because I believed, man, like this is amazing, but if I celebrate it, I might jinx it. Not that I'm superstitious, but in my head, I'm like, this is going to blow up any minute. I'm just enjoying it while it's happening. I'm just enjoying it while I can. I'm just hoping for the best until it blows up in my face. And then I'm back to square one the way I was in my childhood. I'm going to be back with no money. We're not going to be able to pay our bills. We're going to lose our car. We're going to lose like that was the crazy things I would tell myself. And I had this scarcity mindset of money that at any moment it could be gone. And I used to think that was a good thing. I used to think scarcity mindset when it came to money was a healthy thing because it kept me working hard, kept me honest. But then I realized that what the heck is life if you're not stopping and celebrating? What is life if you get to the top of the mountain, you have nobody there with you to celebrate with? And I was pushing my husband away because I was so bogged down and overwhelmed with work because I was throwing myself at it every single day. And it didn't ever come from a place of I don't want to spend time with my husband. If you know me, I'm obsessed with my husband. Like, and I proudly wear that badge because like, man, God truly blessed me in abundance with a man that is patient and kind and intentional and loving and helpful and sincere, strong and smart and generous. I think that God gave me my husband to heal all the parts of me that I didn't have from a father figure growing up. And I would never say that to him. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this because wow, that's a lot of pressure, but he has filled so much void in my heart. And I know God can only do that in full, but like, I'm so blessed. And so me dumping myself into work was never to avoid my marriage or my husband or my children or anything. It was this trauma response. It was this duty I had to myself to make sure I didn't ever end up back where I came from because I desperately hated it. I did. And as much as I appreciate where I came from and I believe all of that happened to me for a reason, I think I had to also go through that series of time where I had to unlearn the bad patterns so I could enjoy the good and the blessings. And that's really why I think I went through a lot of chaos and a lot of trauma, was because God knew what he had in store for my life. He knew what he was doing all along. And maybe you're not at that point yet. Like maybe you're still in the chaos. Maybe there's still trauma. Maybe trauma's happening right now. Maybe it's a marriage, or maybe it's missed opportunity. Maybe it's you made a wrong choice and financially you're strapped, or you're at a crossroads. You don't have purpose in your life. Like maybe you're like, when do I get my break? I promise you it's there. And I know that God has something for you, but maybe there's lessons you're supposed to learn. Maybe there are unhealthy patterns you're supposed to rewire your brain to stop so that you can handle it. So you can handle the blessings he's got for you. So you can take it to the next level. He's got to trust us with what he has for us. And I think he does have us go through some crazy things. I mean, it literally tells us in scripture that it's not if, but when, that we're going to go through hardship and trials, but that we shouldn't be anxious and we shouldn't worry. You know, birds and bees and fish, they don't worry about where their food's going to come from. They know God's going to take care of them. So who are you and I to worry? Who are we to just worry and become a workaholic and put up these barriers and these walls and protect ourselves? Like, our life is so short. And although you come by it honest because somebody didn't love you the right way, they didn't support you the right way, they didn't make you feel safe as a child, you now as an adult are overcompensating for that. But that isn't how you have to continue living. You actually are capable of making change. Just the same way that I felt so called to change when my friend came to me and said, nobody likes you because you have a chip on your shoulder and you're mean to everybody. I wasn't mean to everybody because I was a mean person. Like I wasn't a mean-hearted person. I had this hard exterior built up. Nobody cared about my feelings. Nobody asked me about my feelings. Nobody talked to me about the fact that my parents got divorced several times. They both ended up, being hospitalized for trying to take their own life. Like, nobody talked to me about it. Nobody sat me down and said, hey, do you need therapy? Hey, do you need help through that? And so I built this just tough wall, this tough exterior that pushed everybody out. And then when it came to people that came in my life, that meant well, that were genuine, that were loving. When my husband came into my life and he was just like, seemed too good to be true. I had never experienced a love like this. I've never witnessed somebody just being so enamored by another human, so loving, so kind. I'm not kidding. My first date with my husband, we actually went on 2 dates in one day. We went on a lunch date, and then we went on another date at dinner time because from day one, we're truly just enamored with each other. And just the way he opened up, he shared all of his feelings and his vulnerability, and he shared his life experiences and the things he had done wrong in life. He put it all out there on the line. And I was defensive, and I had every, honest right to be, because I had never experienced real love. I had never experienced from anyone, from a relationship, whether it be a personal relationship or from a parent. I didn't ever get to experience that. And so my trauma response was run, hide, deflect. And that's scary. I think for me, a really pivotal time, or a pivotal experience that I remember being like, okay, it's time to heal. Aside from the moments that I shared with you guys on the last episode, was when I started experiencing friendships in my adult life where it felt like I was looking in a mirror and I didn't like what I saw. And I'm not bad mouthing anybody, because I think everybody has their own time to deal with their own trauma and to heal and to face those. But I do think people come into your life for a reason. And there were a handful of people that I had experienced between the ages of 25 and 32, where I realized, oh, man, like she must not have been told she's enough as a child. And so here she is overcompensating, right? Or, like all she does is work and she doesn't slow down and she doesn't take a break and she doesn't celebrate. She must not have ever been recognized. She must not have ever felt safe as a child. And it was almost like I saw that in other people, and it was looking in a mirror, and it was me realizing, oh, wow, this isn't who I want to be. And where I'm at is great, but I don't want to be here in 10 years. I want to grow. I want to heal from that. I've come to realize every single person out there on the planet has gone through some kind of trauma, has gone through some sort of chaos, or their own version of trauma and chaos, right? Not every single person, not every single story looks the same as mine. Probably a lot do, though. I know I'm not unique to a lot of the things I've been through, but I think what I've really truly realized is that we have to be willing to call ourselves to the carpet and then do the hard work. And a lot of the things in friendship that I've experienced where it's almost like I get annoyed with somebody or I like get irritated. And then when I really broadly look at it, bird's eye view, I go, oof, I think I'm annoyed or irritated because it's something I don't like about myself that I see in this person. And the reality is a lot of times you're bonding with that person because you are alike in that way. And so it's almost like you can trauma bond with them. And that can be okay in certain instances where it's like a Me Too moment, but like you have to be willing to be around people and you have to force yourself to be around people that are doing the hard work to heal themselves. And so I think our childhood explains a lot. I think what we've gone through explains a lot. And if you're anything like me, man, I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to go to therapy and tell my story. And I'm really not done working through my trauma. I think though the most powerful moment in your life is when you stop playing the blame game, when you stop playing victim to where you came from and you realize that doesn't dictate where you're going. Yeah, that tells a story about where you come from and who you were, maybe a little bit of who you are and the patterns that you hold, but it doesn't dictate your future. And if I can be the hope for anybody, I don't know that I ever thought I would break the barrier. I don't know that I ever thought it would be possible for me to not walk through the grocery store and hope that when I get to the checkout, my card's not bouncing and declined. And that was from, 8th grade. I experienced that. Even younger, elementary school. I remember just being so aware of like the money that we didn't have and being told like we can't because we don't have the money. And that's okay. It's okay. Money's not everything, but like it created an unsafe feeling in me as a child that I took into my adult life. And I remember walking through the grocery store, even after I left my parents' house, and I knew I had enough money in the bank, but I just had that uneasy feeling as I walked to the cash register. I don't know that I ever thought I would be able to pay my bills in full and not have past due notices come into the mailbox. I don't think I ever thought I could be proud of myself, but I am. I am really proud. I'm proud of what I've accomplished, what I've achieved. And if I can give you permission to do one thing after listening to this, it's identify the patterns that maybe you've brought into your adult life that are hindering you from fully experiencing life's joys, love, contentment, safety. You deserve all of those things. They're not earned. Feeling loved, feeling recognized, feeling proud, feeling safe, feeling joy. Those aren't luxuries in life. Those are deserved. They're not earned. And so if you can decide to start really unwiring and rewiring these patterns that have happened, that have stemmed from really traumatic things that have happened in your childhood, I think that you will start to gain control over your life again. I hope that by listening to this, you can start to realize you're not alone coming from chaos, and it doesn't dictate who you are or where you're going. You are capable of so much more. Thank you so much for listening today. make sure that you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time here on Taking Life by the Reins.